All right, so for my video, or my case, I said video because I'm actually covering a video. We haven't covered other videos before. That's not really something we've done except for on our live stream. But tonight, it is something that you just did, and then I also originally planned on doing it for the first time. So I wanted to talk directly about character analysis. So she has a channel. She's good. I've liked quite a few videos that she's done.
She's done some incredible videos.
Yep. And there was a new video that came out that, and it'll have to go across the screen because I didn't write it down and I'm shooting with my phone. But she got her hands on a 2015 application of Bryan Kohberger's, and apparently he was applying for a courier job or janitor job. And what was interesting is, for whatever reason, she used this job application to compare against the 4chan post, trying to make connections that she believes 4chan was Bryan Kohberger. And then there was also this post that was brought up that some new post I've never heard of before, and it talks about just some really brutal stuff. Honestly, I'm not going to say what it talked about. Just something done to one of the victims in the house. It only talked about one of them. It didn't talk about all four of them. And it talked from a first-person perspective. And she talked about that in comparison to the 4chan posts, which, mind you, the 4chan posts are done from an outside perspective, talking about potential people that did the crime. So I think there's a little bit of bias going on there, which that's okay. There's no such thing as a human being that doesn't have bias. And this isn't a video calling her out. I would never do that about any other creator out there, put down their content or call them out or anything like that. I'm glad she did the video. This is a ton of information I had no idea about. I didn't know, and I learned a lot from it. I just wanted to speak directly on that because I feel like it's important in a situation where we're dealing with this crime, right? Bryan Kohberger, the criminologist that was going for his doctorate that did these crimes, to have the opposite side of the coin here. So a couple things that she pulled out is the reason why she was trying to connect the 4chan post to this application is there were a couple things that she thought made it to where the writer could have been the same person. So one of the funny things is she said whilst. So apparently in Bryan Kohberger's application, he used the term whilst. And the 4chan writer somewhere in there did too. I didn't have time to go back and verify which one exactly she took it from. Maybe I'll post it on the screen here. But I'll have to go back and check that. And she says specifically, this is a British term, which is interesting because I've used this term multiple times.
Especially in writing. I have too.
Yeah, I don't think it's a British term. Maybe it originated from there. I don't know. I didn't even Google the word to see where it originates from or anything like that. But to make a connection via word to word is just interesting. And the way that she was trying to show, like, well, somebody that wasn't trying to insert this word almost in a British way would just put while. Now, I wrote down what he said here, and without getting into the details, because I'm not going to post the document or take any content from her, she in the video, which you guys should watch, and I will link that video in this one, but she says that, or in the application it says, I did this thing whilst at this other place. And he's talking about a job and school, where an American person would have just used while at. And I personally look at that and think I would have used whilst, because I think the correct sentence would have been while still at this school.
So it's like a combination while still, yeah.
Yeah, and I think she's missing that point in that video. She's assuming whilst is a different way of saying while, but it's not. Whilst is the combination of while still.
Yep.
So,
it just sounded correct, I guess.
Maybe, I'm not sure, but, that stood out to me. And then she goes into some of the other verbiage in the 4chan post. And what was interesting in those is, if I had to guess, I think she's an academically trained person.
Yeah.
Focusing on character analysis. She likes the, intelligent, in-depth conversation around crime and criminology in general, and these specific topics around character and writing clearly, which is amazing, and I'm glad she did it. But I think she's missing a very key element here. All right. So she says a couple things that fresher, mads, and the C word, C-U-N, and I'm not going to finish it. You guys get it. Are British ways of speaking. I'm assuming here, so don't hate me. This isn't shots fired or anything. I don't think she's spent a lot of time in a hood or kicking it with the homies. Where nicknames come from, like that is an inherent characteristic of that lifestyle. Our nicknames, the C word gets thrown around a lot. And I think that might be where the disconnect is there.
Okay, you have a point. But also, even if they were British ways of speaking, how does that point towards Kohberger?
I mean, she thinks that that possibly Kohberger could be trying to throw people off by using these. And the whilst on his original application was the connection, the link between the two.
Okay. I don't see the connection, because if he's trying to throw people off by using British terminology, then him using whilst in an application actually points against that, because that means he uses that terminology in his regular life.
I hear you, and I agree. And what's interesting is that 2015 application where he uses the word whilst, Kohberger's not from England.
No, he's from Pennsylvania.
Yeah,
he's born and raised American
all the time.
I have to.
When I'm replacing while still and I'm writing in a way that it's going to be read.
Yeah, like you want it to, sound good.
Yeah. You want it to sound, professional. Yeah, like you know what you're doing and everything, which again, I think a very important thing to remember when I was watching that video, I was like, oh man, I feel like there were a couple really key points that needed to be talked about. He's writing an application, okay? So it is already going to be inflated conversation. And one of the things she points out too is that he uses I a lot, which what's interesting is, you guys, I've hired hundreds of people, literally hundreds of people, managed hundreds of people, and that was part of my job and title. And when I'm hiring people, I'm specifically looking for people to be able that have the confidence to talk directly about themselves in this way. So I personally don't think saying I a lot means you're a sociopath or there's anything, interesting standing out there, but she did.
It's a job application where all you're doing is talking about yourself.
Yeah.
So why would you say anything else?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. And I think that was part of the reason why I wanted to speak about it a little bit, just because I don't. Clearly, she believes he's guilty, okay?
Yeah.
Which, again, I think everybody is biased. Everybody is. That doesn't make somebody not intelligent, not logical, not a good content creator, not anything, and literally any of those things. But when I see areas of opportunity where I can point out the flip side not being shared, from a good point of view, I want to be able to do that for viewers. Just because I found it interesting and I felt like it made sense watching her video. Like, hey, she probably hasn't kicked it in the hood before. She probably hasn't been in those grimy areas. She probably hasn't hung out with criminals before. Or fraternities, which, like, that ghetto lifestyle has been cool for like the last 2 decades.
It's trendy.
Dude.
People listen to rap music
from the 90s.
Yeah,
literally from the 90s,
you're right.
when NWA started coming out, and it just continued and got bigger and bigger and bigger
Biggie
and bigger
Smalls,
and bigger.
Tupac.
Yes, and it's just grown from there. So if I would see words like this anywhere, it would be from a fraternity. An all-male, kicking it with the boys, drinking, hanging out, and that's where I would expect to see it.
Also, how would you expect Kohberger to have intimate knowledge of the friendships and dynamics within that fraternity?
Yeah.
How would he have that knowledge?
I don't know. It's a stretch, in my opinion. But, again, when you're looking at something from a personally biased angle, you find reasons, whether it's intentional or not, you find reasons to make things connect, not trying to make things not connect. And I'm just a different person, and part of all my careers has been problem solving, literally, has always been solving problems. So I think I try to inherently come from a place of find the problems, not make it connect in these situations. You know what I mean? So I'm not looking for reasons that back my story. I'm looking at my opinion and trying to find reasons that it doesn't back my story. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And maybe that's why I'm able to see these things in this way, where not everybody would, because they're looking for things that make their story more firm, hold more water, stand on its own 2 legs, hold
bias.
more weight. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And, I think it's beneficial in a lot of situations to look for things that don't support your theory.
Yeah, so I mean...
Constantly try and disprove yourself.
I agree with you. I respect character analysis a lot. I've appreciated a lot of her content, and I just hope this is helpful to help her look more objectively at it, because I think she has like kind of a scientific mind.
Yeah.
And objectivity is extremely important when you're looking at something more in a scientific way.
Yeah.
Objectivity is literally the most important. Once you're subjective, it is no longer science.
Yeah.
So I hope it's just helpful to have like a contrary perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. And I think everything that I read in the 4chan, which, she's giving a good outline of where some people might think and the angle they might come from. So I'll be sure to include some of that in the next fraternity video, because I like to create videos out there that is focusing on why other people would think this wouldn't be true. And that's kind of my goal. But, I loved her video. It was a great video. I think that information she got about the application was phenomenal. And I would love to know what you guys think about it. So let us know.
Yeah.